before the break, we showed you how technology is changing the way teens date. And now I'm joined by Kathleen Fischer, an expert on teenagers and the author of Bringing Our Boys Through the Second Decade. She's here to provide her perspective on today's teenagers and how parents can bridge the gap when relating to issues such as dating and technology. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. But I have to tell you, when I met with this wonderful panel of teenagers, I really expected to kind of do a two-part on one line of questions related to dating and another series of questions related to technology. But through that process, I really learned something. I learned that technology is so involved in their day-to-day life and truly does influence the way that they develop relationships. I'm curious about your perspective on that.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. And I love the question where you ask the kids, had they been texting in class?
Oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was only one kid that didn't raise her hand because she had her cell phone removed because of the bill that came as a result of all of the texting.
Right. But here's the backside of that, and that is, what does it take to learn to be in a relationship? What constitutes being in a relationship? And it turns out that something like 85% of what we communicate is not verbal. It's our body language, it's our tone of voice, it's our facial expressions. So when we're on a text or a computer or email or IMing, we're missing about 85%.
All of those cues that we take advantage of when we're talking face to face are missed with the texting.
Exactly.
Well, and they talked about how texting is now kind of defining the beginnings of a relationship, that you start now, you know, instead of with a note in class, you're starting with a text. If all goes well, then maybe a cell phone call, and then maybe a face-to-face. But the texting is what initiates the relationship.
And what I hear kids talking about all the time, particularly girls get really ticked off at guys who break up online or on text messages because there's such an enormous room for misunderstanding. I mean, imagine if you're missing 10 to 15% of somebody's intention of what they meant to say. There's a huge margin for error, and that's the thing that troubles me in building relationships. Initiating, great. Certain kinds of information, I'll see you there at 7 o'clock, so-and-so's going to be there with me, fine. But when it comes to really connecting, growing a relationship, I think it's hampering our kids to a terrific extent.
Well, one of the things that I ask the girls to, or I ask the kids in general, is has it kind of removed the chivalry associated with dating? I mean, the days of calling a girl on Wednesday for a date on Saturday are kind of gone. And now it's just this kind of rapid fire dialogue, as you described, where a lot of things can be misinterpreted and kids are less inhibited texting something and would not otherwise say it face to face.
Oh, absolutely. And there's another phenomenon that I observe, and I would call it the 6:15 on Friday night phenomenon. And that is, we don't make any plans. It's a moving target to figure out what I'm going to be doing and so on. And so I invite you to go to the football game, go to a movie with me. You don't even bother to get back to me until you shop several offers and figure out what's going on. And there are no plans. So when parents say, what are your plans for tonight? Don't know yet. Is it 6:15? Or even later? And that's a very interesting thing, because do you remember the old-fashioned way that if somebody called you on Thursday night or Wednesday night and you said, yes, I'll go, by golly, even if you got a better offer, you went?
You went because you made that commitment.
That's not happening anymore.
They mentioned that too. But one thing I think it's really important to stress too is that the kids, you know, that they're not, this generation is not, you know, decaying. I mean, they still have a real moral code, and they're very quick to point out that even the things that you see on TV or what you see on the internet do not necessarily translate to their morals, but it all boils down to the parents.
Absolutely.
It all has to do with the parents.
I spend so much of my time talking with parents, and you know, it's a funny thing, Paige, because parents tend to feel quite disempowered. Like, my kids aren't listening, I can't get a conversation going, and I cannot say loudly, strongly, enthusiastically enough, parents are the answer.
Parents have to be the answer. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate this.